Good afternoon to everyone here for our webinar today. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our webinar, Digitalization for SMEs, Harnessing Business Potential. This is the first in a series of strategic webinars we are holding with young Arab leaders, to which we are extremely grateful for their support. They have been partners for a while now, since I think 2018. We've done quite a lot of work in terms of youth engagement and student engagement with YAL, and we hope to build our collaboration forward. So thank you, YAL, for your support. To give you a quick introduction about the Pearl Initiative, I know many of you are familiar with the Pearl Initiative. For those of you that aren't, the Pearl Initiative is the leading and only independent non-profit organisation founded to promote the business case for the implementation of the highest standards in corporate governance, accountability and transparency in the Gulf region's private sector. We were launched in 2010 in cooperation with the United Nations Office for Partnerships in New York. The Pearl Initiative aims to convene businesses, decision makers and future young leaders to take the lead in promoting and adopting greater governance standards. The Pearl Initiative also engages with the wider business ecosystem in the Gulf region, collaborating with over 30 regional universities and partnering with over 40 companies to collectively drive our mission forward. We work as a think tank and build data by publishing cutting-edge research reports and studies to inspire business change. Today's session is being held as part of our SME program. To give you a bit of an introduction into our SME program, obviously SMEs are considered the backbone of the regional economy, and they account for between 80 and 90% of registered companies across the region. But their contribution to regional GDP does remain low. As SMEs compete with each other in a saturated marketplace and strive to be both innovative and fiscally sustainable, they must understand the fact that implementing good corporate governance is the key to facilitating growth and success. The Pearl Initiative does understand the necessity of good governance for small business success, and in 2017 we launched the Governance and SMEs program to engage small businesses on the importance of corporate governance for positive economic outcomes. Good governance is flexible and can be modified to fit a business's needs. So, I mean, obviously the common perception is that governance is not for the smaller organization, it's a realm reserved for the multinationals and large corporations, but SMEs will find that applying governance policies and practices will help them building a stronger, more resilient and more profitable business. I mean, the role of corporate governance in terms of recruitment, retaining staff, motivation, securing funding, which is one of the key challenges that most SMEs find. Good corporate governance is one of the answers to be able to achieve those goals. About today's webinar, we are pleased to have this webinar on digitalization for SMEs. It has been predicted that Gulf SME sector will be valued at $920 billion by 2023. And at the same time, the region's economic players are quickly moving to implement digitalization techniques across multiple business functions. Whether to boost efficiencies or revenues, digitalization will soon become a mainstay of the economy. So what are SMEs doing about it, and what can they do to adopt digitalization trends before they are left in the dust? We're thrilled to welcome our expert today, Heba Sayed, a YAL member, marketing manager, Watson Customer Engagement, Middle East, Africa and Turkey, IBM. Heba Sayed is a Young Arab Leaders member and the head of marketing for IBM Watson Customer Engagement in Middle East and Africa. And in her capacity, she leads the strategy, marketing and communications activities that encourage regional brands to adopt AI in their customer engagement strategy. Prior to this role, she has led a number of marketing roles at IBM in Egypt and the UAE, and holds a bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in marketing from the American University in Cairo. Heba, welcome, and thank you so much for being here and for giving up your time and imparting your insights and expertise to our members.
Thank you so much, Yasmin.
Thank you. Before we proceed, I'd just like to give a quick introduction about YAL. Obviously, they're a collaborator and you're a YAL member. So Young Arab Leaders is also a not-for-profit organization founded during the World Economic Forum in 2004. Under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai. YAL seeks to leverage the capabilities and expertise of its strong regional network of members in order to catalyse the entrepreneurial and professional development of the next generation of leaders. Its mission and vision is to empower the next generation of leaders in the Arab world by developing a strong network of industry and business leaders to serve as mentors and role models to the youth and entrepreneurs across the region. It does so by fostering entrepreneurship and innovation and creating a hub for new businesses and investment opportunities. YAL has a mentors and advisors network, is engaged in community initiatives such as entrepreneurship workshop series, a mentorship program, and weekend competition, and has a vast support network. There's a bit about YAL, and Heba, I hand over to you. Thank you so much and enjoy the session.
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you everyone for joining. I see 26 names. Thank you so much for joining. I'm very excited about this topic. I just posted actually on LinkedIn yesterday saying how excited I am. So I do a lot of speaking about usually digital transformation, artificial intelligence, a lot of things about technology. I mentor a number of startups as well in terms of how they're embracing digital and how they're doing different business models using technology. But I never really thought about the relationship between governance and digital transformation. And obviously, they're very, very intertwined. Being asked to do this webinar today, I started to think about my 12 years of experience in IBM. So IBM is a huge company, 110-year-old company, multinational, lots of rules and processes, and a lot of governance really around everything that we're doing. And that includes all digital activities that we're doing day to day. But I never really thought about that framework and how it can be sometimes a little bit difficult, I think, for the small and medium businesses to think like a big company, to have access to the resources, the people, the skills, the framework that you need to build to make sure that you're reaping the best benefits out of digitalization and digital transformation, while at the same time staying true to your values, serving your employees, your supply chain, the communities that you're serving, and more importantly, your customers, of course. So I think we will start to have a discussion today. I do look forward to have a conversation with you and making this interactive. So do prepare to answer questions and do prepare to give me questions as well if you need to. And again, we're all learning together, and I think we'll come up with a more strong and solid framework for digitalization and governance, and what does that mean for you in the region. So digitalization, digital transformation. At times of COVID, I think we're all seeing the importance of digitalization and digital transformation happen. So, I was thinking about, some of the impacts that I've seen really quickly, left, right, working from home, and all the fun things that could happen with that. A lot of us are fully dressed in our rooms like I am now, and conducting work as usual, with all the fun things that could happen. So I can apologize in advance in case my kids, run into the room and just make a noise. I'll make sure that doesn't happen, but you never know. So, I could run into the same situation, fun things, top right, on-demand exercising. We all used to go to the gym, or some of us used to go to the gym. Now we're all finding options and solutions to work out from home. And digital becomes a very important metric to transfer this, continue this journey of fitness and health, even if we're at home. Top right, top left is actually a screenshot from my daughter's birthday party. So my daughter turned 11 last weekend, and before we had big plans for her birthday. She was supposed to go out, go to an escape room, and do all sorts of fun things. And when we couldn't do that, I actually planned a surprise Zoom party for her. So her friends joined in and they had fun. So, the impact of digitalization on our social life is eminent, and it's there, stronger than ever. Bottom left, very interesting business model. So one of the hotels in Jumeirah Lake Towers, my neighborhood, is organizing a DJ in your PJs night, where they're basically sending you food and they are broadcasting music, and just really trying to combat the negative impact that COVID-19 has had on their business. So in essence, digitalization, at times of COVID-19 becomes really important. We see more and more businesses who are not digital now trying to go digital, or the ones who are digital trying to think of new ways, generate more revenue stream, overcome some of the issues, continue to drive value for their customers and the communities that they serve in. And I'm sure many of you today are in the same journey. Some of you more advanced than others, some more quick than others. We've seen brands very responsive, taking actions and making sure that they're changing their entire business model. to use digital metrics to reach their customers, and some not so well. But the reality is we all need to embrace that journey. So I just wanted to ask a question, because that I think digitalization can mean different things to different people, different businesses, and whether you are in the business. And if I ask this question to 100 people, I get 100 different answers. So I think I'll just unmute everyone. And if, someone wants to raise their hand, you can raise your hand on the webinar, and I can just, give you the floor to just, give me some examples of what digitalization means to you. Any hands? Yep, Purish. Let me unmute you. Please go ahead. Purish, you are unmuted. You can also type in the comment section or in the chat. Okay. Okay, I can see that. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. Okay, I'm unable to see. I'm unable to see the chats. Can someone from the organizers tell me if they can see the chat, if there are questions? Okay, now I can see. Okay, thank you so much. We can see that now. So automating processes is one response for small. So there is a question for small, medium business. How can we share best practices across regions? We'll get to that. Using digital platforms to achieve your value proposition. I like that one so much. So I think it really ties in the concept that we're talking about today. So your value and how you can use digital platforms to bring that together. Communicating to your customers online. So Elizabeth, communicating with your customers online is one element, as we will come to it, of digitalization. So digitalization spans more than what we call front end or customer communication. You can have digitalization of your employee experience. You can have digitalization of your supply chain experience. So how you can digitalize the end to end. So very good responses. Thank you so much for that. And I think we'll answer a lot of that and we'll get a lot of that. So if you just Google, right, the digitalization or the different principles, and again, there are too many different entities that are looking into that and what it means. And it's an evolving concept, right? So it's integrating technologies in your everyday life, in your business, making digital everything, making sure that, your processes, your information, your data is in digital format. Using digital to impact how your work gets done, making new digital work streams, using data to do a lot of things, improve your revenue, your business, transform your business processes, and so on. So it's really using the technology that you have to do what you're doing faster, better, more efficiently, or even doing new things. So not only looking at what you're doing and digitalizing it, but how can you have more business or more revenue streams using digitalization. Thank you so much. So why would you digitalize? Again, if you could ask or type, if you're more comfortable with typing, some of your why are you here mainly? Like, why are you looking to digitalize your business? Why would a business go on that journey? And all the money, the costs, the work that it's included in. Do we see any answers? You can type in the questions. Okay, so you can digitalize for a number of things. Saving costs, definitely. So using technology to automate some of the processes that you're doing and ensuring that it's done with less workforce, right? Freeing your people to do more valuable work and automating some of the brainless interactions and brainless processes that are happening in your business is absolutely important. Improving your customer experience and loyalty. So customers' expectations today is defined not by your experience, but defined by the last great experience they have. So your customer experience, you should not compete with, if you're a restaurant, you're not competing with a restaurant next door. You're maybe competing with Amazon, or you're maybe competing with Noon, where the customer had a great experience. They called, they had a problem, it was solved in 1 minute. That becomes the standard. The standard is not only for your industry. The standard is the recent customer experience that they had. The most positive one will define their expectations of you. Employee engagement and happiness. So many times we find ourselves, doing things manually that could be automated. We all have been through that, and we know how painful that can be. So when you're thinking of digitalization, don't only think about, what you can do from a customer perspective or your customer interactions, but think about your employees as well, your most valuable resource and asset. And if you are an MSME, you need to make sure that every resource that you have is utilized to bring value and do value-added work, so they are not spending their time doing things that could be automated. Innovation, better and faster, collaboration. A lot of the tools that are now, collaboration tools now at times of COVID-19, everyone is looking for tools. How do we stay? How do we collaborate? Do we do Zooms? Do we do Trello? Do we do project management tools to help us innovate and really stay on top of our game? Opening new revenue streams. So you might have a business that's a traditional business, but if you think of a digital way, you might be able to use your business model to expand new revenue stream by offering your product or service to a different segment or a different region, or finding other prospects that could be interested in consuming your product and service. Making better decisions. Decision making is becoming extremely important. It always has been important, but your ability as a business to make faster, better decisions will decide the future of your business. Is it going to grow to be a big business or not? And there's a lot of studies and a lot of focus right now on decision making. It's one personal passion for me. And the price of inaction, the price of not being able to take a decision quickly enough, which can be extremely costly for you and your business. So when you have digital tools, when you have, for example, things like analytics, you can understand what's happening in your business, you can understand what's happening in your market, and you can respond faster to these changes. Security and data privacy. So lots of times, you will have to keep physical records of customer information, physical records of transactions that have happened, purchases that your customers have made. And some of that, if it goes outside your business physically, you have a lot of challenges. Or if something physical, physical challenge happened to your records, or there was a fire, or there was, a natural catastrophe of some sort, not having those records digitalized can really have a big challenge and a big impact to you from a business perspective, but also from a compliance perspective, because you cannot afford to lose these. So making sure that you have digital records is becoming also important for your growth and also for your compliance to the local rules and regulations. And just finally, it's what people expect of you. People expect ease of doing business. Ease of doing business is becoming a main factor in determining what people do or what people buy. We don't buy from, Amazon because they have the best products or the best prices. We buy from them because it's easy to buy, it's easy to get our products delivered, and it can be one of the strongest differentiators for your business. So, making sure that it's very easy to do business with you, not only for your customers, but also for your employees and your business partners and the people that you work with is also very important. So again, I just wanted to get an overview. I don't want to get into technicalities, again, working for IBM, I can do this. And but I really wanted to tell you, like, if it's a very easy way to look at what are the things you can digitalize and what are the technologies that are available out there that can help you with that. That's a very easy framework to look at. So if you're looking at your business and you want to start your journey of digitalization, you can start to think of like 3 areas that you can digitalize, and then there are technologies that help you with that. So how do I come up with new business models for what I have? If I'm a restaurant, and I will use that example in terms of new business models, some of the people right now don't feel comfortable ordering ready-made food from restaurants. So I see some examples of restaurants here in Dubai and in Egypt, my home country, that do ship ingredients. So a very nice pizzeria will send you, a ready dough that they made, a ready sauce, toppings that were cut and cleaned, and all you need to do is just make them up together. And this is proving as a new business model. So using the same ingredients that you have, you're not selling a pizza, but you're selling ingredients of a pizza, good ingredients of a pizza for people to make at home for themselves. So can you come up with new business models using technology, ordering online or something like this, where people can interact and request the service from you? Something else is new ways to work. And again, at times of COVID, very important. How can you collaborate faster? How your operations can be faster? How you can find insights into your business? You understand who is your most valuable segments. Like if you have a small business, if I ask you right now, the 20/80 rule. So for any business, there is the concept that 20% of the customers, the top customer, generate 80% of your revenue and vice versa. Do you know who your 20% are? Do you know who the top 20% of your customers that are making 80% of your revenue? How can you grow this 20% to grow your business as well? And then how can you grow demand within the least 80% to generate more business? So actionable insights on your business are really, again, a determining factor, and taking decisions quickly on them is very important. Finding new expertise, finding talent, how do you connect with your ecosystem? How do you connect with your supply chain is very important. And when you think about this framework, there are all sorts of technologies out there that help you, but I just, categorizing them in key areas, cognitive artificial intelligence, analytics, mobile technology, social and social media, social interactions, security and making sure your data is secure, and as well Internet of Things, which will be a big game changer in the next few years, and of course cloud, where you can host all these tools and host all these processes online. And it can feel really daunting where to start. So I just wanted to have like a framework again of where you can start and just where you can really use as a sounding board for any decisions. Because what I see as well is that a lot of businesses, some actually quite large, they want to go for technology for the sake of technology. So they feel they're fascinated by artificial intelligence. IBM has Watson, which is, the artificial intelligence engine. And I get a lot of customers coming to me and saying, I want to get Watson. How can I get AI? How can I start my AI journey? So what I tell them is that technology is a vehicle. It's just like, you say, what do you want to do with that vehicle, right? So if you want to go, for example, you want to say, I want to hike a mountain, right? What kind of car do you need to get into, the mountain? If you want to go grocery shopping, you probably need a different car than the one you're going to use to go to the opera or go to a sports event. So you need to always think of your destination, and your destination is your customer experience. And customer here doesn't only mean your customers who are purchasing from you. Your employees are also your customers, and their experience is very important. Your business partners and your suppliers are also your customers, and their experience is very important. So think of their experience and how can you change and improve that experience. The second element to think about is your journey-driven transformation. So you start to think of your customer journey. If a customer wants to order from you, what are the things that they have to go through? What are the things that they can find challenging? And how can you use technology to improve that challenge? And a lot of concepts are helping for that. I move to the next one, which is design thinking. If you haven't heard of design thinking, I really advise you to get a read about it. And it's basically a way to help you, it's a framework to help you put yourself in your customer's shoes and go through the journey of them dealing with you, whether they're, again, your employees, your suppliers, or your clients, and seeing the pain points from their point of view, seeing the challenges from their eyes, which is something that we can all find very challenging. Even as big company as IBM, sometimes we do a lot of these design thinking workshops where we try to take ourselves outside of ourselves as a business and think of ourselves from our customer perspective. And we think through what are they going to do business with us, and what are the challenges that they're going through, and very objectively understanding the challenges and how technology can solve them. So finding that framework for your business and having that mindset is very important before you start to think on the next steps. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep an eye as well. Okay, the current situation of COVID-19 lockdown absolutely is a live example of why digitalization is important. Yes, but also keeping a framework, I think, of governance, which is what we will share later. Digitalize to survive in a time where screen time is constant. The only gamer interest is digitalized. Yes, absolutely. It is the future. Absolutely. It is the present. It is the present and it is the future. Thank you all so much for your comments. I just wanted to address all of that before we move forward. And incremental improvements, right? So sometimes it's very easy to say, I'm going to revolutionize everything, bring a new system, and tear down all the new processes, the old way of doing things. But it's all about incremental improvement, right? Evolution versus revolution. Sometimes you will need a revolution if something is extremely wrong or something is impacting heavily your customer experience, your perception, your values. You will need a revolution to get rid of that. But if you're looking for improvement, it's definitely about incremental improvements one after the other. Now, moving to digital and corporate governance. Again, very interesting. I really look for your ideas and comments on that. So when you're thinking about digitalization and all the amazing things you want to do in terms of, growing your business on a digital platform, what are the things you consider? Who are the stakeholders that you think within your business and in the community are impacted by your digitalization effort that you need to keep in mind and make sure that you're staying, true to who you are as a business? Feel free to type or raise your hand. So when think of a situation, I can actually take audio. So if someone wants to share something, how they went around making sure that whatever digital activity they're doing or whatever digitalization effort they're doing, what did they think about to make sure that they're, doing it right and staying true to their values? Any takers? No hands raised? Yep, Peggy. Let me unmute you. Peggy, you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And
Hello.
hi, how are you? Sorry, am I supposed
Very
to
good.
switch on my camera as well? Not really.
I think we're good.
Okay. Um, Corporate governance on the digitalization is a bit of a catch-22 scenario. I would personally think of it this way. Um, so far, I mean, of me being a working mom throughout this 2 weeks of e-learning, it is damn tough. Because also a lot of the things that the governance is not only from a governmental level, it's also from a social level as well. So the balancing art is very delicate. That's my own humble opinion, and it's hard to follow the evolution of what is right and what is wrong.
100%. And thank you so much, Peggy. So I agree with you. It is an evolution of what's right and what's wrong. So what was okay yesterday might not be okay today to do in a digital world. And it's very sensitive and a lot of changes. And I'll just take you through some of the governmental examples, some of the governmental rules that have been put into effect that made things that were before okay to do. We all used to do it, made it not okay in a night, and then we all had to adjust to that from a marketing perspective and others as well. And we also got a couple of comments about data and security and how important it is. Privacy and confidentiality, absolutely. And now, with the introduction of new regulations, GDPR, the regulations of data use is that more and more companies are adopting. Even IBM is adopting as well. So which really stresses the importance of protection of the data, the privacy, and the confidentiality. So I just put again a framework of some of the things that you should, think about when you're doing that. So privacy. making sure that the data that you have is private. There is a lot of rules and regulations around the privacy of data, who can use your data, who has access rights to the data. And I do encourage you to read at least the principles of GDPR, which is the European General Data Protection Regulations that were put into effect around a year ago. And many companies around the world, even if they are not operating in the European Union, are starting to take some of the principles that they have of how they treat their customer data and sensitive data in terms of that. And it's basically saying, you know, think of yourself as a person, as a consumer. How would you like your data to be treated? And I think, you know, before getting spam calls of people who has bought your customer data, and they know, for example, that you're looking out for a new real estate piece and having that sold around a number of real estate agencies, which is one of my personal problems, and having a real estate agency call me pretty much twice per week to say, you know, are you interested in this project? Are you interested in this project? While I've only given my number to 1 or 2 agencies. So how you are sharing your data, and sometimes it's really in a very good state of mind. So you have, you know, good intentions. So you're, for example, sharing your customer data with your agency, or, you know, with a partner who's working with you on something, or you're planning a marketing campaign and you share your customer data with someone who might not treat it in the best way possible. So making sure that you are using your customer data as the valuable asset that it is, and keeping their trust and keeping their privacy is very important. And we've seen an impact of this in many big companies, leakage of data, and making sure that, you know, sometimes the people don't have proper access to it. So who in your company needs to have access to that data? This is a question that you need to ask yourself. It's a very important question. Maybe you don't want to give your entire customer list and everything they've bought and their personal information to, you know, a young intern who is joining your company for, you know, 2 weeks, and then you know, they get access to all that list. So who has access to the information? And trying to limit that as much as possible to those who are on a need-to-know basis. And just protecting that, even if you don't have the most complex system. Sometimes we see companies, and again, the human factor becomes very important. So a lot of people think, you know, cybersecurity, privacy is about, you know, investing in a lot of technology solutions, investing in big platforms, which is important. I would recommend that you know, start to see as much as you can how to invest in proper platforms. But it really comes to the human element as well. And we see companies, for example, like Facebook, and, you know, that kept the usernames and passwords of millions and millions of users saved in an Excel sheet that was basically accessible by pretty much a lot of people inside the company who did not need to have that information. So the human factor and thinking of that is important, but also thinking from a technology perspective, what can you do to protect the privacy of your customer data? Cybersecurity is a real threat, and I think at times of COVID-19, a lot of people are using technology properly, but also a lot of people are not using technology to you know, do all sorts of things of phishing, of, you know, the risk of phishing, right? Phishing emails. I work for IBM. We get trainings on phishing. We get tested on phishing, and sometimes, you know, we make mistakes and so on. But it's becoming extremely difficult to combat phishing, and having, you know, people impersonate your company and, you know, sending out an email asking for your customers' personal data or their credit card, and so on and so forth is a real challenge. And a lot of banks are sending me now, they're saying, you know, you have to be aware that it's not happening. So just keeping an eye out on what's happening in the market and educating your customers on what to expect from you as well, right? So you don't want to have someone call your customers and ask for their credit card information, because that becomes a standard practice in your business. Then someone might impersonate you and get access to that data, and your customers will not know the difference. So investing in good practices around, you know, securing information from your customers and keeping it as well. In terms of cybersecurity, I was just reading, you know, very interesting figures. So the cost of data breach. The cost of data breach in the Middle East in 2019, I'm just looking at, is $6 million each. So if you think you can't afford to keep your data safe, you probably can't afford to not keep it safe, right? and do invest whatever means necessary and you can afford to make sure that your customer data, your systems as well. So it's not only cybersecurity is not only about your customer data, but it's about your systems. And it's about, you know, your operations, your tools, your team. You know, tell your team, do like basic education for them. There are many online education on cybersecurity and how, you know, individuals can protect themselves around, you know, phishing hacks or cybersecurity or malware and so on. So do invest in you yourself and your team as well, understanding that, you know, what are the implications of that and how you can keep yourself protected. Transparency is important. So what you're keeping, what you're not keeping. You know, one of the rules, for example, of the general data protection regulations is that customers have the right to understand what kind of data you hold on them. So I'm allowed to contact any company that's operating in the European Union and ask them what exactly the information that you're keeping on me. You need to send me a record of everything you're keeping. Are you keeping my birthday? Are you keeping this? Are you keeping that? And I actually have the right to ask them to remove the information that I don't want them to keep. So they're no longer allowed to go and collect information about you and just go to your social media, which they ask you to integrate with your social media and get a lot of information about you that you did not really authorize them to have. But you can do that. So just keep that in mind. Only keep the essential information about your customers. Only keep what you absolutely need and get access to people accordingly. So maybe some people will need to see customer names, but not everyone needs to see their address or their credit card or their purchases. Think of it, start to develop a framework. One size doesn't fit everyone. Just think of a framework for your business of how that will go, because that will help you as you grow as well. I want to look into the questions and then maybe take more questions. So we got investing, Farhad, investing in your own online store versus using existing marketplaces, Amazon and Noon. Pluses and minuses to each. I'll get back to that because it's a little bit, you know, out of the discussion that we had, but I love that question. I'll get back and I have a very personal point of view on it. Robert, digitalization is the future, but with all the benefits, is there a risk of people losing their ability to communicate face to face, and also the impact on flexible workers who may not work from the office and may feel isolated or alone? With COVID-19, we see that technology has brought people together virtually by audio and video, but maybe people still feel alone, though they have all the tools to connect. So, Robert, interesting human considerations. And I think if you're thinking out as part of governance, and if you think about technology from your people's perspective, importance is to their well-being. And you know, a lot of things are being done. So, for example, technology, for example, in IBM, I can share that we're, you know, arranging sometimes virtual water cooler sessions for the teams. So, and sometimes people arrange like one-to-one coffees. So you can use the same technology to connect with people for things that have nothing to do with working. So you don't just get on and you know, discuss work-related things, but you need to use the technology in good faith and in good governance, as we keep referring to, and just making sure that people still feel that connection, especially you know, here in the Middle East, that there's a huge expat community, and there's a large percentage of people who are living alone, which can make it really hard during this lockdown time. So again, if you're thinking about the framework for good governance, you need to keep that in mind as well. Let me take another question. How can companies balance digitalization and mindfulness and also keeping the relationships work for employees and customers? So it's a training and it's a learning curve. So I would advise, as I said, you need to have basic education for you or your teams. Your teams could be 1 or 2 people or 3 people. Just, you know, tell them, give them like a basic training. And there's a lot of resources online on how you can be mindful about technology. So for example, now a lot of people, myself included, do feel that they are working more via technology when we were working face-to-face. So when we're working face-to-face, you go to work at 9, you have your meetings, you have your discussions, and then you go home and the day pretty much is over. Sometimes you get emails, sometimes you answer them, sometimes not. When you're working from home, the lines are a little bit blurred. So people feel like they're working all the time. Sometimes they take breaks to do things, to have lunch, to have dinner, but pretty much feel that the day is, you know, work. So, and it comes to you and your good governance as well of how to regulate the use of technology. So, you know, your teams, for example, maybe it should be that people should not send each other emails at midnight. Maybe it should be that people should not, now we have instant messaging apps. So we're using Slack in IBM. And I sometimes think, right, I want to send someone a message at 11 p.m. or 12 p.m., 12 a.m. Should I send that message, right? And telling people as well that it's okay to pause their notifications or log out at that time, or maybe keeping 1 hour to themselves. So you can all agree as a team, for example, between 1 and 2 p.m., we're not going to send each other messages, and we're not going to call each other for work-related matters, for example. So you need to come up with that for your business and the teams. And it might be a little bit difficult for external people, right? You cannot control your customers or your supply chain sending you, but you need to think of that framework again, and you need to think of what makes sense for you and your business. And again, get like a easy code of ethics or things you agree on as a team that you will do. Robert, a lot of questions and comments. Thank you. As companies move to a digital platform, do companies now expect employees to increasingly be more efficient and work harder? I think it's very interesting. So do customers expect people to be more efficient and work harder? I don't think. I think what customers expect is for work to go on as usual. And that sometimes for people means that you need to be more efficient and you need to be working harder. So I think, again, it's a code of ethics of what people can do, cannot do, again, and being positive in those hard times as well. So I think it's something you need to discuss as a team and think, set your expectations of what it's like. Because again, people expect that they're going to ping you at 7 p.m. and you're home, right? You're home. You will take the call. Or, for example, I had 3 days off of vacation that I had planned during this time. I was supposed to go somewhere nice, but I didn't. I just stayed home. But some people were like, we have this call. Can you make this call? I mean, you are at home, right? And sometimes I need to set my own standards and say, yes, I understand that I'm home. I'm not going anywhere fun. I'm not traveling, but I do need that time to focus on, my mental well-being at that time, or do something fun with my children, or read a book, or cook, or, do whatever it is that people can do at home. So it's about, again, codes of ethics and governance. It all comes down to good governance as a team to set those rules and expectations. I want to go back to the question about, Farhad, are you still on? I'd love it if you can. So yeah, very good question. So investing in your own online store versus using existing marketplaces, Amazon and Noon. Pluses and minuses to each. So there's no easy answer. And sometimes people do hybrid models, right? Farhad, thank you for being there. So sometimes people, so it's not either or, right? Always remember that you can do both. And many suppliers do both. So pluses and minuses to each, let me summarize for you. The pluses or the pros of using Noons and Amazons: ease of being there, ease of posting your things, you're up and running in no time. You don't need to worry about the logistics, the pickup, the drop off, the customer service, people picking up the phone and saying, I don't want this order, I want to return it, what do I do? The logistics of all of this, especially in these hard times. Noon and Amazon and the likes, they have much better capability to react and act in these difficult times. They can get government approvals, for example, to move as an essential business, and so on and so forth. So the ease of doing things, of course, the huge presence that they have. So you're tapping into their customers, you're tapping into the analytics that they have. They have a lot of investment in analytics tool, which makes sure, for example, that if your customer is looking for product A, they can, find product B as well. So you tap into a lot of the resources that they have that you might not have as a small business. The cons, though, I think mainly the first one would be the pricing, right, and the cost. So you do have to give away part of your revenue to them. And for me, this is not the biggest issue. For me, the biggest issue is number two, what I'm going to say. Number two is your inability to build your own brand presence, and most importantly, your own customer data. The strength of Amazon and the Noons is their ability to get the customer data. And when you work on their platform, you don't get access to that data. You don't get to know your customers. What did they buy? What did they look for? You don't get to understand your customer physical and digital presence as much, and their digital journey, and what you can do about it and how you can improve. Well, if you have this on your platform, you have all this information, right? And with time, you will build customer data and you will build a database, and then that helps you expand your business. And of course, your equity, right? So if you're selling on your own website, that is your brand equity that you're building, and investing in it is important. And it helps you grow your business on the long run. While if you are part of Amazon and Noon, sometimes, honestly, do I even look at the seller? Sometimes I don't even look at the seller. Sometimes I look at the product, I look at the reviews, and I buy it. I don't know if it's, you know, Farhad Incorporated, or it's, I don't know, whatever else, right? I think for small and medium businesses, and my husband has a small and medium business, and we were discussing that strategy for him as well. I think usually a hybrid model works well. So, you know, keep being part of Amazon and Noon, right? Keep, you know, your product there. A lot of businesses are doing it, like, you know, a lot of the big retailers, Carrefour, are selling, I think, on Noon. Union Co-op is also selling on Noon. So these are huge, huge companies, and they're selling on these platforms. So keep that strategy, keep your products there initially. You need the revenue stream, and you need the ease and not having to invest in a lot of resources of customer service and post-customer sale and so on. But also you need to have a plan of how you can start your own business and build your equity and build your brand and build your data. It's not about the revenue. If you think about it from a revenue perspective, oh, I'll only lose 5 dirhams, you know, if I sell on Amazon. You're not only losing 5 dirhams, you're losing the most valuable asset, which is customer data. So keep that plan, you know, in mind. Do a hybrid model, and you need to get there. Robert, thank you so much for your feedback. Yep, Heba, Robert, again. Okay. Mohammed, which function, department, and the organization has the major responsibility ownership of digitalization strategy and policy? Thank you, Mohammed. Very good question. We'll answer that actually. Is compulsory to have formal IT education to develop digitalization strategy and policies? My answer is no. So Mohammed, let me answer your question, because I think we deviated into the questions, which is good. I love questions. But then I have maybe a couple more slides, then we can take more questions. So digitalization strategy and the ownership, the roles and responsibilities. So there are, the roles and responsibilities differ. So there are people who are advising on your digital strategy, your rules, your processes, but then there are people who are owning, and then there are people who are accountable. And you need to have separation of duties, right? So who is deciding on, for example, if you're doing social media, who is giving the final approval on this? And sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's many people, and the owner could be different. So if you can afford to have, like, I don't know, chief digitalization officer, then that's great. But also that chief digitalization officer will need to work with the line of business, because digitalization is not only an IT function. It's not about one person deciding what's right and what's wrong. Digitalization is about your entire business, and everyone is a stakeholder. So whether it's, for example, you're posting something, a new policy about HR, so your HR needs to have a say in that as well. If you're posting something about marketing, then your marketing team or your marketing person needs to have a say on that as well. If you're posting something about your, you know, how you're going to operate, and maybe also legal, sometimes you will need to have legal look into that, whether it's someone in-house or whether you're getting legal advice, pro bono legal advice. But it's very important that you keep that mindset as well. So a digital strategy can be developed by the whole business coming together, but then the exact, and the policies, but the exact process of, let's say, approvals and the flow of decisions that need to make is really on a case-by-case basis. But you need to have that defined. And I think especially at crisis time, so at times at COVID-19, if you want to do something for COVID-19, who are the people who need to decide? If you're going to do a new offering, who are the people who need to decide, right? So you need to define that, and it needs to be super simple and super clear, but also super decisive. And there are people who will be advising, but there will be a decision maker. for each and every of those decisions. So you can say, if I want to change my, employee collaboration tools, right, or how we're going to collaborate, we just discussed that, right? What is the code of ethic of how we are going to use digital platforms? Are we not going to ping people after hours? Are we not going to call people on the weekends, or so on? Or how does that work? Who gets to decide? Is it maybe you need to open for people to give, their ideas, which is very important from a user perspective to give their ideas, but maybe you need to have HR or someone from HR just also weigh in and advise what can and cannot be done. But you need to have a decision maker that says, yes, this is going to happen, or no, it's not going to happen. So it's not an easy answer, right? And who is owning is not an easy answer, but it needs to be separate from also the management. So which is, again, good corporate governance. So it's not the marketing manager is the one who's deciding on, for example, what is the message that we're going to send out in the end, if the marketing manager is the same person who's going to propose what that message is. Maybe it needs to be, I don't know, the owner of the company, or the CEO, or maybe someone else from the team. So separating duty, so that not the same person who's wants to make changes or wants to take an action is the same person who gets to decide. And who are the advisors? It needs to be super simple, but super decisive and timely as well, because at times of crisis, which we are in, you can really tell the businesses that are responsive and the ones who are not, the ones who are just going around trying to find out who needs to approve this piece of communication, or who needs to approve this new price promotion, or who needs to approve this new product offering. If you don't have that in place ahead of time, you will find it really hard to adapt. And digitalization is all about adapting and moving quickly. And to answer your question, which department and function, again, I think it's really case by case basis, and company by company it completely differs. Is it compulsory to have formal IT education? No, I really don't think so. I think what it takes to have a proper digitalization strategy, policy, and standards is its cohesiveness, and someone's ability to take in input from different entities within their companies and just put that platform and put that policy and be completely disengaged from that policy, not be engaged into it, not want to influence it, but build it in a way that it's robust, that it's completely, I mean, you cannot say it's completely impartial, or it's completely decisive. You will always have some issues in there, and you will always have some gray areas. But it takes that mindset of being able to identify stakeholders and putting standards that address those stakeholders' abilities. So, and again, there are a lot of things online as well. If you want to read out about, how to have like digital strategy, or platforms or frameworks of how to build a digital strategy that you can use as well. So yeah, on that, again, this is just, starting to get us thinking about this, right? It's all about starting to get you thinking about this. And I think the Pearl Initiative, being very focused on corporate governance that they are, and now they're, I think, very bought into the concept of digitalization and impact on corporate governance. There will be more sessions on this, but we just really wanted this to be an initial discussion, just to get you thinking, right, about what that means for your business. What are the key questions you need to ask yourself? Moving on. So we talked about a lot of standards and a lot of processes and tools that are available out there to help you build your framework and key considerations. So I realize we have 5 minutes, and I just wanted to share one example. So COBIT 5, COBIT is one of the institutions that are looking into governance of digital transformation. And they do have a website, they have a lot of resources in there, but there's like a very easy checklist that they said, you should start to use. And we did cover some of that question, and you need to answer those questions for yourself and your business as well. So number one, meeting your stakeholder needs. It's not only about IT, as we said, it's about everyone in the business. Covering the enterprise end to end, making sure everyone that should have a say does have a say. And we have one single framework. So it's not multiple decision lines. It's just one framework that governs every decision that needs to be taken. It's holistic. And then very importantly, separating governance from management. So you need to have someone in your organization that can be able to say, no, we're not going to do it. Even if your general manager thinks it's a great idea, even if the owner of the company thinks it's a great idea to post this social message about, you know, COVID, or it's a great idea to do this, you need to have metrics in place where the governance of your digital activities and presence is separate from the management. I'll move on quickly as well, and just I want to take maybe one or two more questions or comments before we close into the information governance framework, right? So how can you look into your information and what are the things that you need to do, you know, how you're maintaining your record, how your data is integrity, how you're able to do basic analytics on your data, and just really taking the best advantage out of that. And again, these are all frameworks and models, and there's just so much available online that you can use for your business. Last but not least, digitalization is a journey. It's not a destination. It's really a journey, and it's really looking into, you know, how you can reinvent yourself in your business. You know, how can you grow value? And value is for your customers, for your employees, for the owners and the shareholders, and also for the investors, and also for your suppliers and partners. And then I can just take a couple of questions before we close, if there are any. I'll be looking into the chat. Any more questions? Comments, looking for comments, ideas, anything you're gonna go do differently, big challenges you have ahead. Really keen to hear your point of view. Feel free to type. None? I think we answered. Let me just look into everything. Yeah, I think we answered everything. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much, just in time for the hour. Thank you so much for your time and your comments and your questions. I really learned a lot today, and you will hear, I think, more from per the initiative on digitalization and corporate governance. And stay safe. Thank you.